Hey guys, it's Crystal here and my friend Carissa. Today we're going to be talking about beginner poses. Not necessarily only beginners do these poses, but just to kind of give you a place to start if you haven't tried yoga before, and just to watch the video and take the little tips into your first class, and hopefully it's not so scary of a journey the first day. So Carissa's going to take downward facing dog. This is a pretty standard yoga pose. The biggest thing with downward facing dog is we have a tendency as beginners to really kind of lean into our hands and arch the spine. And this really puts a lot of pressure on the wrists. So I really want you to think about downward facing dog being more of a standing posture as opposed to balancing on your hands. So as much as you can, take your chest back towards the thighs, but every pose requires the core to be engaged. So really draw the belly in while still reaching the chest back towards the thighs. So Carissa has really open hamstrings. So if you have tighter hamstrings, bend the knees a lot. That's totally okay, and then continue to reach back. And the biggest thing is really grip into the finger pads, especially if you have sensitive wrists. You really want the energy to go up the arms as opposed to right into the wrist crease. So from here, typically the next cue is to lift the right leg up to the sky, and then bring the leg through to step in between the hands. So she's going to step all the way forward, and for us that are a little bit newer to yoga, stepping forward into the hand is really difficult because either of the restriction in the hip or restriction in the quad, whatever the case may be. So she's going to demonstrate it on the left side, lifting her left leg up to the sky, and she's going to bring her knee forward as much as she can, and then she's going to grab it with her left hand and then step the foot the rest of the way. So you can take that variation too. And then she'll step back to downward facing dog. So that's an easy way to kind of get into that. That's what we call a vinyasa flow. We take the leg up in the air and then we come through into a lunge. The next step is coming into a forward fold. So she'll look forward to the top of her mat, and she'll take lots of baby steps to come to the top of her mat. So you can work with the knees bent, you can work with the legs straighter, whatever range that you have in your hamstrings, but know that this is your practice, truly. So you don't want to overstretch the hamstrings. And then she'll take a forward fold. So again, the tendency for forward fold is we have really tight hip joints. So lift up a little bit. So we'll kind of have this like mummy zombie look rounding forward, which is absolutely okay. But what I'd rather have happen is either take your hands to the shins or maybe even up to the thighs, and see if she can really pull the shoulder blades together and lengthen out through her chest. And even here, she'll lift her chin a little bit so her head doesn't hang. So kind of show Carissa what it would look like if your head were just to kind of hang and then you're backward around. So this creates a lot of vertebrae pressure, so you don't want to do that. You really want to create length. So push into the hands, lengthen the spine, pull the chin away from the chest. And then from here, she'll come back into her forward fold. Nice bent knees, as much as you need to. Another thing you can do in this pose is find blocks. It's always good to grab blocks at the beginning of class and place your hands on the blocks. And from here, take a halfway lift. Same thing, drawing the shoulder blades together. Lift the chin so that the head doesn't hang, and then come back down into your forward fold. And then she'll release her hands back to the floor and step back to a downward facing dog. So every class is a little bit different in terms of how the teacher may flow, but this kind of gives you an idea of the mechanics of the body and the general idea of what we call Sun A or Sun B. So the next series of poses may look like this. She'll look to the top of her mat, and then once again she'll either take one giant step forward or lots of baby steps forward, whatever is more comfortable. And then she'll come into a pose called chair pose, and it looks like a chair. So she'll bend her knees, allow the hips to drop, and then she'll lift her arms and her chest up. From here, you'll notice there is a back bend that happens in this lower part of the spine, but she really wants to keep her core engaged. So sucking the belly in towards the spine, allowing this part of your back to arch, and then maybe she sinks a little bit deeper. To check into the feet here, she should be able to lift her toes and then send the weight back into the heels. The toes don't necessarily have to stay up, but just to kind of check in to see if the weight is back or forward. And then from here, she'll forward fold again. And always, you can take your hands back to the blocks. You can take your hands to your shins if they don't meet the floor. Find a place that's comfortable. And then she'll come back to downward facing dog, nice and easy. So we'll talk about 4 brief standing poses that we typically do in any basic vinyasa class. Vinyasa just means flowing with breath. So we'll take our right leg to the sky, and then she'll step through, coming into a lunge. Either one giant step or again grabbing the calf and then bringing it forward. So before she lifts up to a pose that we'll call Crescent Lunge, notice the back heel is lifted super high and she's lunging to where the front knee is directly over her ankle, and then she'll lift up nice and strong from her core to lift her arms towards the sky, Crescent Lunge. So sometimes we get very wobbly in the pose, and the key to it is squeezing towards the midline of the body. So if I were pretending like I had a block right here, she'd be squeezing into the block and doing the same thing with the back leg to find that balance. Make sure you stay with your breath, and the key is your breath. So even if the instructor is cueing something else, find your breath. She'll take one more inhale breath here, and then from here she'll open to Warrior Two. So basic alignment cues for Warrior Two. The back foot is flat. It's going to face the knife edge of your mat. And then the front foot, if you were to draw a line, it's going to cut the back foot in half. Okay, and then from here, the front knee bends, maybe to a 90-degree bend. If that's too much on the knee, she can always straighten the leg just a little bit. But either way, really squeeze in towards the midline of her body. So this is the midline of her body if I were to draw a line, and she really has to hug in. And then maybe she sinks a little bit deeper and stays deep in her lunge. This is Warrior Two. She'll take a deep breath in here. And then the next pose might be extended side angle. So she's going to take her elbow to the right thigh and then her left arm straight up to the sky. So our tendency sometimes as beginners is we really collapse into the shoulder. So we kind of just hang out, and then this hand is like hanging out up here. You know, so we always want space in yoga. So lengthen this arm towards the sky, lengthen out of this elbow, and really press into your thigh for leverage to create length in this side body. She'll take a deep breath in here and see if she can make the depth in her knee bend a little bit more. Good. And then on an inhale, she'll take a reverse warrior. Her left hand will come to the back thigh, and her right arm will reach straight up towards the sky. Once again, oftentimes we have this ability to kind of just crunch in the side body, or we'll kind of round forward a little bit, or the knee will buckle in. All those are really hard on the body, so really open up. Allow the knee to press open, so she'll press it towards me, and then forward a bit. And then see if she can square out her armpits to face the camera. She'll take one more deep breath here. And then exhale, take the hands to the floor. She'll step back into a high plank position. So high plank position is just a fancy way of saying the top of a push-up in yoga. Same thing as downward facing dog. The hands are very strong. She grips into the finger pads and belly once again. The core is always the foundation of your pose. So you'll always get cued typically for chaturangas in power or vinyasa type classes. And what I'd like you to do for probably a good solid even month of your practice, beginning your practice, to hold this high plank. You can notice this is a very solid posture. She's working very hard here. The arms, the glutes, the legs are working, and she's breathing nice and strong. Again, the tendency here is to kind of collapse in the lower back, let the hips drop. So watch that. Allow the hips to be in line with the shoulders. She'll take one more deep breath, and then downward facing dog. So take those tips with you, try it a couple times at home, watch the video over and over again, and then take those tips with you to class and have fun as you go. Thanks you guys for watching.